Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's been quite a bit since the last time I did one of these, but we're going to go ahead and try to wing it, so just wanted to leave it on that drawing that I did right there. That was where we left off before, was Vela, our partner in crime and archer friend. So I think I talked about this character for a little while in the last one, but tried not to get too into detail. I think one of the biggest problems too that I had with this video was I couldn't remember my settings I had on my webcam to be able to accentuate those drawing lines. I don't think it's too bad, but I'm going to be much happier when I'm able to get a much stronger camera with a better resolution to get good video coverage here. But anyway, so our character today that we're doing is kind of the poster child for the series, and I just wanted to show that right there. That was going to be like my base picture. Feel free to go back and pause that if you need to, but it's not really that relevant. But that was the base that I used for this picture. And once again, the poster child basically for this series, which is Naomi Takama. I don't know how you're really supposed to pronounce the name Naomi, or however, I guess it really just depends. But, yeah, she's one of the few characters that actually has a last name as well. Mostly because I completely forgot to add last names to characters. I did like 3 last names, and then completely never came up with any more after that point. But, yeah, like I was saying in the last one, she is a Dark Knight-based character. I guess what I'm saying is she is based off of the classic Final Fantasy Dark Knight, which is basically a class that is a full damage dealer that expends their own health or their own life to be able to deal mass amounts of fucking damage to everything out on the field. Usually by some kind of life-consuming attack that hits everything called either Darkness or Dark Side or some similar thing of that sort, but that's basically the job of a Dark Knight, really, is just to deal mass amounts of damage to everything, and that's really exactly the same thing that this character does, is just fucking destroy everything. The more damage that she suffers in combat, the more powerful she becomes on top of it, so basically the only way to really take this character down would be to go all out right at the fucking get-go of everything. But we're just starting out on the wireframe, and it actually was a surprisingly very well done, like at the start right there, for a concept of how I wanted to draw this character, which probably, I would have to say this one is the best drawing that I've done so far in the time-lapse series, even putting into account the fact that I am pretty rusty because I haven't drawn in quite a long time, and that's saying a damn thing. But that's mostly because I've drawn this character more than pretty much any other character, because she's just so goddamn fun to draw. So, that, and I just love the character in general. I'm a little bit biased, so yeah. Yeah, right, we were talking about the fucking character and shit. She's supposed to be the love interest of the main character, Kane Valstein, by the way. So, if you haven't already gotten that interpretation by now, that is a thing that I should probably point out right there. She is the love interest and childhood friend of the main character, which becomes a pretty important thing further along into the series. Not so much earlier on, mostly because, like, I don't want to really spoil anything with the actual storyline of this, though, but, like, he never even knew that she was still alive for the early portions of the story, and I'll just leave it at that. Her entire job in class, what she does, and how powerful that this character is as a fighter as well, is really kind of just like a one-time thing. It is based off of a certain thing, almost a ritual you would call it. I don't even know what the fuck that you really would call it though, but in a way she kind of was an experiment of some sort of magical thing. I haven't completely put full details into it though, but she's the product of an experiment that is no longer practiced in the actual world of Azeroth anymore because it is just horribly immoral. But she participated in it regardless anyway, just out of the fact of trying to find more strength, essentially. So she's definitely one of those kind of classic characters from pretty much any fucking anime, really, where they just feel they need to keep getting stronger to protect something that they love. And that's basically her whole existence right there, is just a ridiculous amount of fucking willpower for everything. Which, while admirable, also is a very scary and frightening weapon to be used, as basically is her whole existence, really. She is just fucking a weapon. One of the main things to note about this character, too, is that she's not really like a group kind of actor, necessarily. Like, she does a lot of the most powerful and the most difficult to do jobs and quests and such in the universe just by herself, plain and simply. Which is kind of fucking crazy with some of the severity of some of the things that they actually wind up doing from time to time in the Sanctuary. But the reason being is partially just the way the character is by themselves, their willpower, and again, her job as a Dark Knight in general, because there's a whole lot of fucking shit that I wanted to do to explain why she is so goddamn powerful on her own. Easily is the strongest character, except for one character that I cannot really say much about why that is without spoiling more shit once again, but basically the only reasoning why that character isn't as powerful as Naomi is just because she simply doesn't try nearly as hard. Also, I said she and didn't realize it right there, so enjoy trying to piece that together if you give a shit enough. Not 100% sure where to go with this from here, but I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. But yeah, she's definitely one of my favorite characters, if not my absolute favorite character of anybody that I have made for the Tempest series, for sure. Just because, mostly, I fucking absolutely adore Dark Knights to begin with. The eyes gave me a little bit of trouble here. I was trying to get her to have this face where she's tilting her head down slightly to get that kind of an appearance, and it took a little while for me to be able to nail that, but we definitely get it down. The eyes are just way too much of a slant right here, and that's going to be the next thing that I'm doing, is just working on those eyes a lot. Right now, she looks a lot like Android 18 for some reason from Dragon Ball Z series. Which, nothing against that, it's just she just looks a lot like Android 18 for some reason, which isn't what we're going for. I don't know what else to really go on for with, like, this character in the story itself, so I'll actually just talk about her combat style, really, which, again, also very similar and based off of how Dark Knights basically operate in Final Fantasy and such, or any other game for the most part. But rather than so many, like, health-draining skills, it's really just all about that blood rage, which I had already mentioned, where, like, the more physical damage she sustains in combat, the stronger she gets. She's actually surprisingly, despite having probably one of the largest weapons, if not the largest. No, actually, there's a battle axe user, so one of the largest weapons of the main cast. She is for sure one of the fastest characters as well, and it's just, once again, fucking superior training versus everybody else who's just spent a lot more time in the field and knows how to get around shit. Though her most damaging attacks are definitely like the slower ones and such, but she's really just all about the swordsmanship and being able to outsmart people. She's not a brute-forced dumbass that will just charge into a fight and just want to dismantle the enemy without having to put any fucking thoughts into it whatsoever. So despite the way that her class sounds with being a damage dealer and all of that other shit, she's not reckless by any stretch. Well, she is reckless, but in a different sense. She's reckless in not really caring so much for her own safety, since she relies on that Blood Rage skill so much to be able to take damage to deal it. And that's really the main thing about this character. I have so many drawings of her just sliced up to hell and fucking just cuts everywhere, thrashed, bruised, beaten. But the thing is, like, she will claw her way out of almost any situation. And that's what I was trying to design this character with on there. So the actual design of the character as well, if you're noticing that little faceplate that she has right above her head right there, I didn't want a helmet per se. And my idea that I was thinking of when I made her initially was, I was thinking of you, or Euclid Hellscythe, from Is This a Zombie? Which is an anime, for those of you who are not aware of that. And she was a necromancer in that one very specifically. And I was thinking of the little faceplate that she has right above her head, which is basically a helmet visor, but without the fucking helmet. I'm not 100% sure what it looks like on Euclid Hellscythe, but that's what she definitely has right there. It's literally just a helmet visor, but there's no helmet. The fact that that's there, or any logic as to how that stays up without falling over or anything, doesn't make any goddamn sense, but don't worry about it. And that's pretty much what I designed this character after, was thinking of Euclid Hellscythe, a necromancer, some kind of crazy shit like that. Her armor itself is... We're working on a skirt right now, but she does have a skirt, just 2 boots, and that's literally everything that she's wearing for the fucking lower half of her body, really, at that point. Just a skirt and 2 metal-plated boots. And those are probably the least important part of her outfit in general, really. The body armor itself, though, I don't remember how much detail I put into it, though, but the body armor actually cuts off at the hips and the back, leaving it very vulnerable, where you can see a lot of bandages and such taped over her back, which she kind of uses that. I want to say that she's such a fucking badass that she uses the fact that there's an opening in the back of her armor as a way to ruse people into attacking her. But that's not really practical in any way, shape, or form, no matter how good you are at fighting. But that's kind of how that works, really. If she's going to get hit anywhere, it's going to be like in the back or something like that, and it's just a lot of sword wounds and everything back there, why it's all taped up. She's very self-conscious about the way that her wounds do appear to other people, too. Surprisingly, she's actually a surprisingly girly character, despite being very serious. If you can't already tell from the look on her face and how she already appears very stoic to begin with, she's one of the more older feeling and stoic characters, for sure, of anybody else. Just a very serious and just gets shit done, doesn't fuck around kind of characters. A kudere, if you will. But not quite so analytical. She just has a lot of experience with the world from the amount of time that she's had out in the field once again. But where was I going from that one? Yeah, the armor and shit like that. But it's basically just one big metal plate in the front with an exposed back, 2 shoulder pauldrons, and then the arms themselves, I'll get into the detailing of that in a minute here. The arms themselves are really just a bunch of leather straps that go down to gauntlets at the end. They don't really offer that much protection by themselves to begin with, but besides the leather straps, really. And that's the armor to a T. That is all the armor that she's wearing, really. Just pretty much the plate for the shoulders and the front of her body. But she still utilizes it to her own advantage. She still wants to be able to get hit and have blood drawn to be able to activate that Blood Rage skill, and that's such a heavy, reliant ability that she uses, for sure. It's even shown in the armor, as I just went into explanation on. But really, that's about everything that I can explain here with Naomi. I went into this one blind and didn't know how I wanted to go about talking about this character to be overly blunt. So I just kind of, I wung it like I usually do with fucking everything on this channel. So I think I did a pretty good job with this one versus the other ones before. I lost my train of thought, but I did stay on topic and I kept everything going and flowing, and I talked about, for the first time, everything that I wanted to go over with this character. A lot of times when I do narrations or voiceovers, I'm thinking to myself afterwards where it's like, oh, I wanted to talk about this thing or that thing, and completely forget about shit. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to go over about Naomi Takama, the Dark Knight. But yeah, for sure, my favorite character to draw, and I have the most drawings of this one over anyone else. She's just so incredibly fun to fucking draw. And she just doesn't take a whole lot of effort to make look like a fucking badass, so. Yeah, that sword too, by the way, was based off of the Final Fantasy XI Braveheart sword, which is a level 10 or 20 claymore. That was what started that one up right there. A lot of the stuff that I've drawn in here is Final Fantasy XI based when it comes to RPGs. But anyway, that is everything right there, guys. Hope you enjoyed this time lapse. We're going to get one more close-up so that you can really see those delicious pencil lines. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.